What's going on, party people? It's your boy here, Dame from Be Better Dance Company. And as you'll know by now, breaking is coming to the Paris 2024 Olympics. Now, for many of us, this is cause to celebrate. For some of us, you might be like, what, they're still doing that? And for others of us, there's all kinds of questions related to this. So today we're going to cover like 10 interesting things that's important to know before breaking at the 2024 Olympics. Without further ado, let's get going. Breaking is a dance style born out of New York, specifically the South Bronx, in 1960s and 70s. This particular dance form is pretty combative and was created by Black and Puerto Rican kids from that region at that time. Breaking is also one of the 5 hip-hop elements, which include breaking, graffiti, MCing, DJing, and knowledge, but more on that a bit later on. That's the brief history. So breaking isn't popping, waving, locking, it isn't anything that looks like robotics, it isn't capoeira, it isn't a martial art. Breaking is a dance form that's kind of born out of funk music, James Brown footwork and Latin and salsa footwork. That's how we got the form. And then the form evolved to become different things. But breaking is not body popping. The reason we don't use the term breakdance is because it doesn't really reflect what breaking is. So breakdance is a commercial term for the form, but breakdance as a word became used for all of the other stuff we just mentioned, the electric boogie and all of the other stuff. People called that breakdance. Breaking is the name that we use for the form, or b-boying or b-girling, but we don't use the term breakdance. And having breaking at the Olympics means that that word is probably going to start being used less and less. But yes, we don't use the term breakdance because it's a commercial term which was used by the media and went around the world. As you know, that's probably the phrase that you use. But breaking is a term that we use for a number of reasons. The break in the word, there's 2 schools of thought on where this comes from. And one school of thought is the breaks in the music. So when you listen to the music that b-boys and b-girls dance to, there's a kind of that kind of section of the music that may appear in rock records, funk records, Latin records. That's where b-boys and b-girls would throw down. So dancing on the breaks of the music, that section of the music, is one school of thought where the name comes from. But also breaking could reflect your breaking point, your point of no return. As you know, as we mentioned earlier, in this part of the South Bronx where breaking and hip-hop culture came from, the social circumstances weren't that great, and you know, where there is pressure, where there is where life is hard, it can cause some people to break or reach their breaking point. And that's another school of thought of where the idea comes from. So when you hear that music and you just can't contain yourself anymore, you reach your breaking point and you got a touchdown. Yeah, those are a couple of ideas why we don't use the term breakdance, but we use the term break and breaking. Let's talk about some terms. So the standing up part of breaking, where you see the people moving their arms like this, that's called the top rock. Top means standing and the rock is kind of the feeling of the movement. Then when you get down to the floor, that's called your go down or your get down. And then when you're down there, you're doing footwork. Some people call it floor work, but essentially you're on the lower level. Now, footwork was kind of born out of top rock. You know, you're top rocking, everyone's having a good time, then you want to touch the floor and do something a bit more interesting, and then you stay down on the floor for a bit longer, and that's how footwork was born. Then you have freezes. A freeze is a position that you can hold to like hold yourself in different shapes and show the people like, yeah, I can do this, what can you do? A freeze is a nice way to punctuate the music and also punctuate your style. Then you have power moves. Power moves are movements that involve circular motion and are probably the thing that we recognize the most when we see breakdancing. But power moves are also born out of footwork and generating force, and that over time has evolved. Now let's be a bit more expansive. So you have ciphering. A cypher is like a circle of people who are dancing, usually one by one, but it's kind of a conversation. It's not really a place to practice, and it's not really a place to compete sometimes. So in the cypher, you go in, you do your thing, and you are responding to the music, but also the vibe of the cypher. How are other people dancing? What kind of points are people making? You might see somebody do something and then decide you want to do that too, or you've got a version of that you want to showcase. So cypher is a great place to show your stuff, and it's really the heartbeat of the breaking interaction and experience. Then you have battling. We don't call it a dance-off, it's a battle. And in a battle, usually one person would go, then the other person would go, they go back and forth, and it might be decided by official judges, which we'll get onto a bit later on, or it could be decided by just the props that you get from the audience. But in a battle, typically you don't touch the other person, and you are trying to beat the other person. It's a conversation, an A-B conversation. You do something, and I respond to you. And that's how a battle works. Oh, and you have crew battles too, but we'll say that for another day. Next, let's look at the judges' criteria. Now, we've spoken about a few different things that make up breaking, and we believe that the judges at the Olympics are going to be looking for some of this stuff too. So you're going to have technique, how you do things. You're going to have execution, how well you do things. You're going to have musicality, which is going to be exciting because the music drives the dance, like all styles. Then you're going to have, I guess, difficulty. How hard is the stuff to do that you're doing? Performance, a few different things. I would imagine that these are some of the things that the judges are going to be looking for and judging at the Olympics. And there's great cause for great excitement there, because who knows what it's really going to be like until we get closer to the time. Next, we need to talk about B-girls. Now, this may change, but to my understanding, there will be 16 B-boys competing at the Olympics and 16 B-girls. This may change, I don't know. But either way, the idea of having 16 B-girls from around the world, aka female breakdancers, if you want to use that phrase, having 16 B-girls travel to Paris to compete for their country and stuff like that, I think is so amazing, because I think that many people, when they picture breaking, they only picture dudes. But the worldwide B-girl scene is so amazing and so incredible, so rich right now, that we're going to see some stuff we've never seen before. And I thought it was important to mention this, because there are going to be people everywhere who have never seen B-girls get down, and it's going to change their life and change the way they think. So to B-girls everywhere, we salute you. Now, there's a question that a lot of people ask: isn't breaking an artistic dance form? And then how is it in the Olympics when it's a sport? Is it a sport or is it an art? I don't think we need to draw a distinction between those things. Not everything needs to be put in a neatly packaged box for us to understand it. Yes, it's a dance, so it has artistic aspects, but it can be deemed a sport because you have to train super hard, and you're definitely an athlete if you can compete in this thing and also compete at a very high level. There has been some people mention that, well, this is unlike anything that we've ever had at the Olympics before. I don't think it should be there. And, you know, some people can't wait to be resistant to stuff, right? But if you look at synchronized swimming, if you look at figure skating in the Winter Olympics, and if you look at pretty much everything in the gymnastics section of the games, it's all pretty much choreographed, physical, high-powered, artistic movement. And that's how you score high. If you're doing the parallel bars or ribbon or whatever, you choreographed your dance piece to a piece of music to show to the audience. So in essence, for decades, we've had dance or artistic sport at the Olympics, and in 2024 we get to add one more to the mix. Now, some people are asking, why is breaking coming to the Olympics now? Isn't it like 40 years too late or something like that? I don't know why people are saying this stuff, but you can hear anything if you look hard enough. But this isn't the first time that breaking has been at the Olympics. In 2018, in Buenos Aires in Argentina, at the Youth Olympics, there was breaking. The b-boy competition was won by Bumblebee from Russia, and the B-girl competition was won by Ramu from Japan. So the judging system and the organization is already in place. This is an amazing time to have breaking feature at the major games and really draw attention to this beautiful art and sports form. So yeah, we have right to get excited. Lastly, countries to look out for. We've already mentioned Russia. We've already mentioned Japan. You know the United States are going to bring the heat. You know France are not going to be playing around. Here in the United Kingdom, we have an amazing scene and a couple big boys and girls who are looking to go and do some stuff. And across the world, there is an amazing and beautifully enriching breaking scene. We're going to discover more about that as time goes on. We're going to learn new names, we're going to see new faces, and that is cause to get excited. So, which country will you be backing? Thank you everybody for coming through today. This was a little beginner's guide and introduction to breaking and what we might be able to expect at the Olympic Games in 2024. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below anything that I might have missed that you think is important. Let us know your favorite B-boys and B-girls, and we'll see you on the next one.